You know that feeling, right? Scrolling through your phone, maybe late at night, and bam, a flashy ad pops up. Something you kind of want at a price that almost makes you do a double take.
Yeah, like how can it possibly be that cheap?
Exactly. It's that sort of magnetic pull, those deals that feel, well, almost too good to be true. And for a whole lot of people now, that feeling leads straight to one place. Temu. Welcome to the deep dive.
Today, we're really digging into Temu, this e-commerce platform that's just exploded onto the global scene. We're planning to go way beyond the hype, the flashy ads.
Right. Peel back the layers.
Yeah, unpack the controversy, the really serious allegations, and maybe uncover some of those hidden costs tucked away behind those super tempting prices.
It's definitely a complex picture.
Our mission today is pretty straightforward. Cut through the noise. We want to look at the full spectrum of what people are concerned about. I mean, everything from like product safety.
Ethical sourcing to the big ones. Cybersecurity risks. And even, believe it or not, national security questions. The goal is that by the end of this, you'll have a much clearer idea of what's really going on.
So you can make genuinely informed choices about where you click buy.
Precisely.
And to do that, we've really gathered a stack of material. We're looking at some heavy-duty cybersecurity research. Grizzly Research is a name that comes up a lot.
Right.
Plus, a significant number of legal filings. We're talking state and federal level. Arkansas, Nebraska, Kentucky have filed some pretty landmark lawsuits.
Oh, okay.
And then there are investigative reports from news outlets, government committees, U.S., EU, even Turkey are looking into this. So this isn't just about, getting a cheap gadget.
No.
It's about understanding what you might be giving away in the process.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting right at the beginning. What actually is Temu? I mean, fundamentally, it's a legitimate company, right?
It is. It's owned by PDD Holdings, which is a major Chinese corporation. It basically operates as an online marketplace.
So connecting shoppers directly with manufacturers, mostly in China.
That's the core model, yeah. And look, the stuff generally does arrive. People get their packages often, within about 10 days or so. It functions.
It works as a shop, but then what about when the parcel actually lands on your doorstep? What's inside?
Well, that's where it gets inconsistent.
That's putting it mildly, maybe. I've heard hit or miss, often leaning towards miss, or worse, just cheap garbage.
Yeah, those descriptions come up a lot. And there are concrete examples. ZDNet did a test, right? They bought a gaming console advertised with, like, 27,000 preloaded games.
27,000.
Yeah, and when it arrived,
Let me guess.
0. None at all.
Wow. Okay. So it makes you wonder, if you're paying pennies, what are you actually getting for it?
And what's fascinating here is how they manage those rock-bottom prices. It's not just the direct-to-manufacturer thing, though that cuts costs.
So what else?
A really big factor, especially in the U.S., is something called the de minimis rule. Basically, individual packages valued under $800 can come into the U.S. duty-free.
So they skip the import taxes.
Exactly. And they bypass a lot of the usual custom scrutiny that bigger shipments from traditional retailers face.
Interesting. So a rule meant for, like, small personal gifts.
Is being used systematically by this massive platform. It gives them a huge competitive advantage, and it means they can often sidestep regulations that others have to follow.
And beyond the product quality or lack thereof, the whole shopping experience, some people find it a bit off-putting.
Yeah, manipulative is a word you hear. Look at the complaints over 1,100 to the Better Business Bureau. And their Trustpilot score, last we checked, August 2025. Hovering around 2.2 out of 5. That's pretty low.
Ouch. And what about those tactics? The fake countdown timers. Only 3 left. Alerts.
Right, or those little casino-style games promising free stuff. You just keep clicking, keep sharing.
Critics have called that stuff skeevy and exploitative. Basically designed to just push you into buying things impulsively.
It definitely raises questions for all of us, When does looking for a bargain turn into something else? Does it change how we think about shopping online altogether?
Where does the deal end and the psychological nudge begin?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so we've got the allure, the low prices, but also the potential disappointment and maybe some iffy marketing. But let's peel back another layer. Here's where it gets really interesting. Or maybe worrying.
Product safety and ethics.
Exactly. What about the stuff itself? Is it safe? And how is it made?
This is where some really concerning findings have emerged.
Like that Channel 4 dispatches investigation over in the UK? That sounded pretty bad.
It was alarming. They tested children's clothing, jewelry, found dangerous levels of toxic chemicals, lead, antimony.
In kids' stuff?
Yeah, levels exceeding UK safety limits by 10 times. They highlighted a silver necklace, cost just over £2, that had 10 times the allowed lead level.
10 times. I mean, what does that actually mean for a kid wearing it?
Well, for young children, even small, repeated exposures to lead can be really harmful. It affects brain development, neurological systems. It's not just a minor quality issue,
It's a potential health hazard?
a serious one.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just chemicals. That investigation and others found issues with safety certifications basically being faked.
Faked. How?
Like, they found pliers claiming to have VDE certification, that's a key European standard for electrical safety tools. But the docks were altered. They weren't genuinely certified.
So dangerous if used for electrical work.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
Same with climbing carabiners missing the official UIAA safety markings crucial for mountaineering gear, and even medical products labeled FDA approved.
But the FBI doesn't just approve products like that, do they?
Exactly. The FDA doesn't issue blanket approvals like that. So the labels were misleading, if not outright fraudulent.
Wow. Okay, so product safety is a huge red flag. What about the people making these things? The ethical side.
That's another deeply troubling area. Temu's supply chain has been linked to reports of exploitative labor practices, particularly in China's Xinjiang region.
The Uyghur situation.
Yes, allegations involving forced labor of Uyghur Muslims.
Oh.
A U.S. House Select Committee looked into this and found that Temu, despite saying they have zero tolerance for forced labor, they seem to lack proper auditing systems to actually ensure compliance. Reports talk about workers doing insane hours, like 17-hour shifts, for very little pay.
17 hours.
Yeah, it paints a pretty grim picture.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, what about the environment? All these cheap, potentially disposable items being shipped globally.
That's a major criticism. The whole model seems built on encouraging overconsumption. You buy lots of stuff, maybe use it briefly because it's cheap or breakers.
Right, often made from synthetic materials that don't biodegrade.
Exactly. Add the huge carbon footprint from mass production in one part of the world and then shipping it everywhere else. It really challenges any notion of sustainability.
So the true cost of that bargain isn't just the dollar amount. It's potentially human rights, safety, environmental impact.
Precisely. All these hidden costs pile up.
Okay, let's shift gears now to what might be, for many people, the most alarming set of allegations, the ones about data, privacy, and security. Your phone, basically.
Yeah, this is where the cybersecurity experts get really concerned.
So Temu collects data, most apps do, but the amount and type of data they ask for, it seems excessive.
That's putting it mildly. We're talking standard stuff like location, device ID, search history, payment details. Okay, but then it wants access to biometric data.
Biometric, like fingerprints.
Fingerprints, facial recognition scans, voice prints, plus access to your camera, your microphone, your text messages, your contact list.
Hang on, why does an app for buying cheap stuff need my voice print or access to my texts?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? This raises an important question. What's the justification? Why this incredibly broad data grab for what's supposedly just a shopping app?
And some security researchers have strong opinions on this.
Very strong. Grizzly Research, for instance, didn't mince words. They called Temu, and I quote, the most dangerous app in wide circulation.
Wow. Dangerous. Why?
They argue it shows all the signs of aggressive malware and spyware. They allege it has hidden functions designed specifically to pull data off your phone.
Without you even knowing it.
That's the claim, that it's built to exfiltrate data without user knowledge. The core takeaway here is the allegation that it's not just a shopping tool that happens to collect data, but potentially a tool designed for extensive data gathering, way beyond what's needed for e-commerce, potentially compromising your device's security. That's a huge difference.
And the specific technical claims are pretty scary too. Things like bypassing phone security.
Right. Allegations that it can read private messages, emails, change phone settings, track your notifications, even inject code to monitor what you do outside the app on other websites.
Inject code. That sounds invasive.
Extremely. The accusation is basically that it can gain unrestricted access to your phone and override the privacy settings you've put in place, essentially taking the keys to your digital life.
And isn't there a connection here to Temu's sister app, Pinduoduo?
Yes, absolutely. Pinduoduo, which is huge in China, was actually suspended from the Google Play Store back in March 2023. Why? Because they found malware hidden inside it.
Malware doing what?
Exploiting security holes in Android phones to do things like access private messages and change settings without permission. And analysts point out Temu shares parts of its code with Pinduoduo.
So similar DNA, potentially similar problems?
That's the concern. And it's not just Google. Apple and Google reportedly both suspended Temu itself briefly in 2023 because of beta concerns before it was eventually let back on the stores.
Now, Temu's response to all this.
They deny everything, flat out.
Yeah.
They call the allegations unfounded, blame misinformation from short sellers trying to damage their stock price.
They say they comply with all the rules.
They claim their data practices are fine, meet global standards, no unauthorized surveillance, no selling data in that sense. Though they do admit sharing data with third parties.
For things like shipping, marketing.
Right. Standard stuff, they'd argue. But given the technical reports, the Pinduoduo history,
Yeah.
you really have to ask yourself, how much trust do you place in those denials? Especially when an app seems capable of overriding your own choices.
So what does this all mean when we zoom out? We're going beyond just your phone, your data, to the bigger legal fights and even geopolitical worries.
Yeah, this has escalated way beyond individual user complaints.
We're seeing actual lawsuits now, right? From state attorneys general.
A lot of them. By mid-2025, reports suggest nearly 24 U.S. states had filed suits, and they're using strong language, alleging Temu functions as dangerous malware and spyware.
Any specific examples?
Well, Arkansas's Attorney General Tim Griffin filed what was called a first-of-its-kind state lawsuit back in June 2024. He didn't pull punches, accused Temu point-blank of being a data theft business.
Data theft, wow.
And others followed. Nebraska, in June 2025, alleged Temu unlawfully harvests data, including from kids. Kentucky, just a month later, explicitly brought up national security.
National security, how does a shopping app connect to that?
Kentucky's AG warned that the data collected could potentially be accessed and used by the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP, maybe for influence campaigns or other purposes.
And it's not just states, right? Class action lawsuits, too.
Yeah, from users. Some are about that biometric data collection, fingerprints, face scans potentially violating privacy laws like the one in Illinois. Others are about financial breaches.
Like that case of Miguel Koenig. He claimed thousands in unexplained charges.
Exactly. $2,300, he said, showed up after using the app. So real financial harm being alleged, too.
Okay, so that national security angle Kentucky raised. Let's dig into that. Why are lawmakers worried? Is it like the TikTok concerns?
It's very similar logic, yes.
Yeah.
The core worry stems from China's 2017 National Intelligence Law.
What does that law say?
Essentially, it requires Chinese companies and citizens to cooperate with state intelligence agencies if asked. There's no real way for them to refuse.
So the fear is if the CCP demands user data from Temu.
Temu, being a Chinese-owned company ultimately, would legally have to hand it over. And that data could then be used for surveillance, espionage.
Or worse.
Well, the really alarming scenarios involve cyber attacks. Could compromised phones be turned into a botnet to launch attacks? Could they even remotely brick devices, just shut them down permanently?
That sounds extreme, but is it technically possible?
If an app truly has the deep level of access that's being alleged, then yes, those kinds of scenarios become technically feasible. It's why the national security concerns are taken so seriously.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, what's the geopolitical context?
Analysts see platforms like Temu potentially backed or influenced by the state as part of a broader strategy by China to expand global influence and, critically, gather vast amounts of data worldwide.
Is there any evidence of state connection?
Well, Temu's parent company, PDD Holdings, is reported to have links to an entity called People's Data, which is believed to be affiliated with the Chinese state. So the connections are certainly being scrutinized.
It's not just business competition then, it's potentially strategic data gathering.
That's the argument, yeah. It's about digital sovereignty as much as e-commerce.
And it's not just the U.S. looking at this, right? You mentioned the EU, Turkey.
Absolutely.
Yep.
The EU launched a formal investigation under its Digital Services Act, the DSA. They're looking at illegal or unsafe products, but also the addictive design aspects we talked about earlier.
And Turkey.
They're investigating claims about carcinogenic materials in some products, plus potential tax evasion issues. And back in the U.S., it's not just the states. Federal agencies are all over this.
Like who?
The House Select Committee on the CCP, obviously, but also the Federal Trade Commission, FTC, the Consumer Product Safety Commission, CPSC, the Department of Commerce. They're all running investigations.
So a whole constellation of regulators digging in. This clearly isn't just about your individual phone anymore. It's hitting these much bigger issues.
National security, digital autonomy, fair trade. It touches on a lot.
Okay. So we've laid out a pretty complex and, frankly, worrying picture. Low prices on one side, but serious risks on the other. If you're listening and feeling concerned, or maybe you still want to browse but safely, what can you actually do?
Right. It's not necessarily about completely avoiding it, but about being smart and minimizing your exposure. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's about taking back some control.
So practical steps.
Yes. First, and maybe the most impactful single step, avoid installing the Temu app if you can.
Use the website instead.
Exactly. Use it through your phone's web browser. That dramatically limits the permissions the platform can get from your device compared to a native app.
Okay, good tip. What else?
Think about compartmentalizing. Consider using a dedicated email address just for online shopping, not your main personal or work email.
So if there's a breach, it's contained.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And when you're filling out forms, profile information, be mindful.
Yeah.
For fields that aren't strictly necessary for your order, maybe don't give your real details.
Provide false info where it doesn't matter.
Where appropriate, yes. Protect your real data. Then there's payment.
Don't enter your credit card directly.
If you can avoid it, yes.
Yes.
Use a secure third-party payment method like PayPal. That adds a layer of separation between Temu and your actual bank or card details.
Makes sense. Anything else?
You could look into privacy tools. Things like Norton AntiTrack or similar services can help mask your digital fingerprint, the unique identifiers browsers use to track you online. Makes it harder for any site, not just Temu, to follow you around.
So basically, limit app permissions, compartmentalize your info, use secure payments, and consider privacy tools.
That's a good summary. It's about being conscious of the risks and taking proactive steps.
Okay. So wrapping this up, this deep dive really shows, well, it shows that while Temu dangle these incredibly low prices, almost irresistible deals, they come bundled with some potentially significant costs that are often hidden. We've talked inconsistent quality, serious safety hazards with products.
Really profound ethical questions about labor, about the environment.
And then the really big ones, aggressive data harvesting, potentially acting like spyware, and raising genuine national security alarms.
And the fact that legal challenges and regulatory probes are popping up all over the globe really underlines how serious these issues are being taken.
It definitely raises fundamental questions about how we shop, what we trade for convenience, and the power these platforms have in our digital lives.
Which leads us to the final thought. Given this really complex mix, the lure of the bargain versus the potential exposure to privacy breaches, maybe even national security risks, how do you, listening now, weigh that? How do you value a cheap product against the security of your digital life, your personal information?
And maybe even broader. What does all this intense global scrutiny of platforms like Temu tell us about where international e-commerce is heading? And what does it mean for our digital autonomy as consumers around the world?
Lots to think about there.